Hi, welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I'm so excited. We've got Sara, Adrien, and Matilda Madison with us today. Thanks,
Hi.
ladies, for taking the time.
Thank you so
Such a
much.
pleasure.
So we actually have 4 releases this week. Dana Quince has a Dragonblade or a Lion's Den debut, so we're going to catch up with her next week.
Oh, cool.
And Lily Harlem has a first book in a new series. That's the first book that came out this week. It's Bats Out of Hell, and it's Vikings Rock. Like
Oh.
Vikings rock, all caps with an exclamation point, like in case there was any doubt, they rock. So, but it's a Dragonblade Flame. So not only do you get the sexy Vikings, you get the sexy, like steamy, spicy Vikings too. So that is book 1 in the new series. But the first book that comes out after that is Sara's book, and that's A Touch of Charm. It's book 3 in the Miracles on Harley Street series. And Sara, can you tell us a little bit about this one?
I'd love to. I had so much fun writing this. So this is the story of the orthopedist. In every book, the characters who work at this practice come in and out. So for anybody who's read the first 2 books or some of my Lion's Den books, you might already know Dr. Andre Fernando. But what you don't know is that he has a terrible, terrible secret. And this secret keeps him from the woman he falls in love with pretty quickly. And this woman is Princess Thea. She is a runaway princess. She's running away from an arranged marriage in a faraway country. No spoilers. So, and she's supposed to marry somebody she doesn't know very well, she doesn't love, and that's not the future she envisioned for herself. So she annoyed her father by writing a treaty that she hoped, in Latin, that she hoped would get her out of this arranged marriage. But it was infuriating everybody back home. So she ran away. And how can a princess look after herself if she's on the run, several countries away, back in the Regency era? She was hiding as a governess. And this is how I actually got to write one of my favorite ever minor characters. I didn't know that was possible, but her charge is a little 6-year-old girl. Her name is Mary.
Fun.
And she is just terrible because so Princess Thea instantly likes but is shy when she sees Dr. Andre Fernando, who unfortunately has to look after her and keep her safe, which means for him keeping his fingers off her, which, that's just a mess.
That's inconvenient and we don't think should hold.
Spelling trouble, right? So the little girl, who's 6 years old, as I said, goes up to him and she says, "Okay, I'm going to be your nurse. Tell me what to do." And he's like, he's very kid friendly and he's really super sweet. So he's like, "Can you hold a clean towel for me, please?" And so she's like, "They're very important, holding a clean towel." It's a lot of how I was when I was little. Everybody in my family were doctors, and just like walk in, and I was just like, this is me in charge now. So Mary tells Dr. Fernando that, last night my governess was barely just talking about you all the time. And will you just please dance with me now? And he's hesitant, but because he's such a great guy, he dances with a little girl. And she's like, "Okay, now it's her turn." And then the girl just walks away. So all of these really awkward moments, the girl interrupts. I had so much fun writing this.
I bet.
And it's just a really fun story. It's a long book. It's over 90,000 words.
It is a long book.
I just couldn't part with these characters, and they come back in the next book, and they were in the previous one, and they're going to get a winter special also.
Oh,
So
fun.
yeah, I can't. I love them so much, and I hope everybody who's going to read these books will love them and enjoy that they come in and out of everybody's lives, and that they get into quite a bit of trouble as well.
It sounds like so much fun, and I love books with kids. It's like you can get them to do things that the adults would never do, and it's just the guilelessness is lovely. So awesome.
Thank you.
How many more Harley Street books do we get?
So there are after Andre's story, there is Nurse Wendy. And her book is together with Princess Thea's brother, Prince Stan. So that's coming out next in the summer. Then we'll have the dentist Felix, who has a very tragic broken heart that also surfaces in these books. And his story is going to come out in the winter. And then next winter, we'll have a winter special where everybody's coming back because we have to, there's going to be some exciting, complicated wedding stuff.
How fun. I love it when you get to see everybody again, the people you've already gotten attached to. Fantastic. Well, the next book that comes out this week is Matilda's book, and it's Finding Faith, and it's book 2 in Seduced in Scotland. And I will tell you, if you're going to be seduced, I think Scotland is the place you should choose to do that. So.
It was my favorite place where I was ever seduced. So my husband and I went there for our honeymoon.
Oh, fun.
It was wonderful. I fell madly in love with the country. So, but Finding Faith is book 2 in Seduced in Scotland. It follows Faith Sharp, who is the second sister. I have Hope, Faith, and Grace. And book 2 follows Faith, and she hates Scotland because she doesn't want to be there. She grew up in London. That's what happened in the first book. They had to exit the city as fast as possible, and then her sister fell in love with Graham, and they're living with their great aunt, Belle, who is a bit of a trickster. She involves herself in everybody's lives. She's meddlesome, and she's orchestrated all of these books in the background. So she's a lot of fun. And Faith it's a enemies to lovers. She
I love this.
Yeah, she does not like her brother-in-law's best friend, Logan, who is a former soldier from, I believe, there's a second war. It's set in 1845. So Burma, the second Burma War, I think. I don't have my notes in front of me, but he's got a bit of a.
I'm not going to be able to help you with that.
Yeah, I know. There's so many, but yeah. So they don't like each other because he doesn't like English women and she doesn't like Scottish men. So of course, he buys a painting of a famous nude. It was based off I also forget the painting that I based it off of, but the Grand Obelisk, the woman who's laying and she's turned, it's her back. I based it off of that. And Faith, before she left London, had posed for a picture or a painting, and he heard that it was of some princess or something like that. So he's like, I'm going to buy this painting. Maybe I'm holding it for ransom. He opens it up. It's the woman he hates. And then she gets trapped at his house during a rainstorm, finds out that he's an art collector. She's an artist. And there's actually one of my favorite parts is they go into his gallery and there's the coronation of Napoleon. And when I was a kid, I went to the Louvre with my grandma. We took a trip and there was the coronation of Napoleon, and the man who made it, I mean, it's a massive painting and it's held there and it's a treasure, but there were 2 made. The artist painted, he was commissioned by an American to make a replica, and it took him 15 years. And by the time he finished, the guy who had commissioned it died. And the only difference between these paintings is that in the second one, Napoleon's sister is painted in pink because the artist had fallen in love with her. And wanted everybody to know that once upon a time. And so there's a lot of art history in this book in particular, and people coming back from the past, and a scheme to get the painting, and they hate each other, but they love each other. So
fun. It sounds like so much fun. And I love a good enemies to lover, especially when the enemies part is based on things that are just niggly things,
oh yeah, they're perfect together too. So
good. And we get one more story in this series.
Yes, the third book follows Grace. She finally gets to shadow a doctor. There's all these laws in the 1800s in England about women becoming doctors. And there was a 1805 act. I don't know the name of it. I really should have my notes. But you could apprentice a doctor by following him around and stuff like that. So that she decides to, and her aunt helps. She gets involved with Dr. Hall. And Dr. Hall is not really thrilled to have a woman shadow him, not really thrilled to have a woman shadow him in Glasgow, because they go to the poor neighborhoods, because that's he goes once or twice a month, and now she's coming. But that book is based off of or it was inspired by the Hare murders, where they
I need
would.
to know what those are.
It's Hare and something. It took place in Scotland in the 1800s. You can get, I think, £9 for a body if you sold them to a university, but they had to be like dead, obviously. And but you can get like a £12 for a fresh one. So there was a boarding house in Scotland in one of the cities. I'm almost positive it was Glasgow, but I don't know. It might have been Edinburgh. But there was two men, and they were in a boarding house, and they started killing poor people who were living in there and selling the bodies at a higher price. So that it was based off of that. There's a lot of that. I'm trying to solve a crime, trying to save lives. My girl Grace does a trach with like a pen. It's
Oh,
really
wow.
cool. So yeah, and I have like
How's it?
I have a couple of friends who are doctors, so I'm just calling them up constantly and being like, "Could you do this with like a rusty nail?" And they're like, "Absolutely not." I was like, "Yeah, but come on." Yeah. So I'm excited for that one too. That one comes out in June. So.
Cool. Well, that is a beautiful segue to what I was hoping we could talk about with the rest of the time. Because I know, Sara, we've talked before about your books and about the research that you did into it, and Matilda, you said about the art history in this one and the doctoring in the next one. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about how you do the research for your books. My main question is, how do you stop yourself from continuing to this research endlessly, and not go down every rabbit hole there is? And what is it that you find fascinating about that process?
As the master of rabbit holes, I went there. So the setting for this series is a practice that is real. It has nothing to do with the current doctors who are there, who actually, I know who this is, nothing to do with the series. So full disclaimer, the characters in my books are fictional and slightly predate when Harley Street in London became as famous as it is now. So I've written in one of the other books about what it means to have a royal warrant. So to this day, some of the practices on Harley Street, and now it has gotten bigger. So there's Wimpole Street and a couple of other cross streets where all the doctors, some of the fanciest doctors in London are some of the most distinguished practices. When I was there, one of the most amazing things coming from an American perspective is that you only have the name of the doctor very small on the side of the doorbell. Maybe there's a very small plaque somewhere that'll say something like, for example, dermatology, practice this and that or something, which is amazing because people know where to go. And
so no signage, no, nothing hanging out onto the street.
No, you just go and whatever it is, you might have to see the dentist, the orthodontist, or maybe my handsome orthopedist from Harley Street, and you know where to go. So this is why I thought if I had some characters like the members of the Ton, and I have one who comes in and out, he's the Earl of Langley. He needs lots of fixing up. He needs these doctors. Like they're really important for him. He has a very young wife and he has to stay in shape and he gets into all kinds of trouble and then needs another doctor. So he would know where to go and he'd go. In our case, in our yes and no fictional world, to 87 Harley Street. And at 87 Harley Street, these young doctors have to maintain patient confidentiality. So I looked a lot into that. Where you would find that information, if you have to look for primary sources, in part is if you are lucky like me and you're in law school and you make your way into the Inner Temple, and it's just one of the most beautiful libraries I've ever been to. I love libraries. I met my husband at the library. I love libraries. And it's true.
No.
It's totally true. I live in these books, and I looked at some of these old texts, and they're not written like now, where you say this condition, this and that, COVID symptoms are XYZ. It's not like this. it is written from an older doctor's perspective to a younger one as an apprentice. And it says, if you find a patient who, for example, has a bruise, I won't go into ick factor, right? So like you should help them by putting perhaps a piece of ice wrapped in a clean towel on this bruise, and then it'll help the swelling go away. You know,
So
it's written.
teaching moment instead of a documenting.
Yeah, so they
Oh,
were written so beautifully. So these are my rabbit holes, are saving some of them. I sometimes share them then with my newsletter if I just can't let it go.
fun.
And I think in this book, I think my author's note was initially 15 pages and then I cut it down to 5. But in the beginning, I allow myself to put some of this information in there. I also really enjoy looking at the images. They were usually always drawings. And I'm just right now writing and finishing up the dentist story. And the books to explain, for example, how something was made is a drawing, for instance, of a tooth. And then they took real gold foil and actually worked it into the paper to really show how you're supposed to do this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've looked at some of this. It's just so cool research, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's more than enough reason to sign up for your newsletter. So
yeah, do that.
yeah, you should pop the link to your newsletter in the comments underneath your book. So if anybody wants to get in, so that they get all the good details, because I would like the stories. So
I'm happy to do that. And one thing that strikes me every single time, though, and it strikes me anew, and it's just so amazing. I keep trying to wrap my mind around it. But everything we know now was already around more than 200 years ago. And then there are some of these techniques that have been around since the Mayans, the Incas, the ancient Egyptians. The Romans made splints, articulated metal splints for the legs. So I use that in my next book. And it's just, the problems were around and people were really, really creative in trying to deal with them.
Oh, wow. Wow. I wouldn't have thought about that. Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Matilda, what about you? How do you stop yourself from getting lost in rabbit holes?
Oh, I don't. I go all the way in, and I live there indefinitely. Tuesday actually. I write with a writer friend on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I spent about an hour trying to figure out where in London I could have a house, and like she was like, just pick one, and I was like, I can't. It's got to be perfect, and I got to make sure that this building was here at that time, because it's. She's like, who's gonna check? But
somebody will check.
Yeah, and it was just funny because she'll do the same thing. I'm like, oh, who cares? But she like I grew up. My dad is a history teacher. I loved history. It was my favorite subject in school. So I was just obsessed with history. I still am. I can't. I find one little thing and I'm like, well, now I need to know everything about this. The art history part. That was just from a memory. I didn't even see the second painting, but because I think it's in America actually. But the guy who was the tour guide had said it, and I was 14, and I always remembered it. And
the pink dress would stick out because there's a love story attached to that pink dress.
Yeah, you can't tell a 14-year-old girl like, oh, the artist was in love. I was like,
it's there forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. It's just I love history. Like the medical for book 3, my Grace does a surgery, or no, they're dissecting a body at one of the medical schools, and they're trying to figure out what caused the death, and the heart is blackened slightly, but it was something, it was like a medical thing, and I'm not a good science student, so I do have friends that I call, but I went down a rabbit hole and I got sucked into, I think I went all the way back to like somebody in like Germanic time, like way back in the day, like Gaul, like they had put a plate in somebody's skull like in 800, and I was like, what? So I obsessed about that, and that's not even in the book. So I go off and I never steer clear or get back on because I need to know. I'm starved for information and I need to know, even if I forget about it. But I love learning, and I love history. And
so what makes your heart blacken? I really like.
It was, you know what? I think he had he had a pulmonary embolism, but a heart attack at the no, it was a heart attack, but it was caused by a respiratory issue, and it like your heart when you have a heart attack and that you die from it, it'll discolor in a certain way.
Huh.
And I had to call my friend who works in the ER. I was like, "Is this true?" And they're like, "It's been a couple of years since I dissected a body." I was like, "Well, ask somebody." So they asked the person who works at the bottom of the hospital with the coroners, and he's like, "Yeah, kind of." I was like, "Okay, that's all I need. That's a confirmation for me."
It kind of is plausible enough.
Yeah. So I have like a really weird memory where like I'll hear one thing and I'll lock onto it indefinitely, tuck it away, and then I can pull it out. So I just love it. I can't. It's why I like writing historical romances in particular, because I get to learn about them. The corn tax is what I'm currently researching and obsessing about right now. There's corn tax. There was a really cool wheat tax. This is a sidebar, but I'm so excited about it because I love bread. And in like the early 1800s, they were able to make flour in Britain so fine that it had taken out the nutrients of it, and bread was like the main food source for people who work the fields and stuff like that. But they were becoming weak and sick from it. So there was a law passed that you could only grind down wheat to a certain level to keep nutrients in it so that people could continue to be healthy off of that. So random one. I don't know where it is in any of my books, but I love that one so much. And so just random stuff that I'm obsessed with. So
There should be different flour for pastry and different flour for the bread that you're going to carry around with you. Yeah.
absolutely. I have like 6 because I love bread. So I have like 6 different bags of flour at all times. King Arthur, because their protein is exactly where it's supposed to be. So I get obsessed about things.
Are you a sourdough? Are you a sourdough girl?
I do. I have a couple. I have 2 sourdough starters. One's from a couple years ago. The other one, I, I maintain my one, but then I'll let the second one die and then start over because it's so much fun. It's just flour and water. You keep feeding it for a couple days, and I usually get them to start bubbling proper in 7 days because they need 76 degrees temperature. It's perfect temperature. So
you and I are going to have to talk about this because I've got a sourdough starter that's going on like day 8 or day 9. I got bubbles on the top, but I don't have any rise. And it rose a lot in the beginning. Like, okay, breeders, here we go with this. It rose a lot in the beginning. And I was like, yay, I'm a sourdough genius. And then she fell, and then she just like kept making bubbles, but she never went up again. And I am determined to figure this out.
I know 76 degrees is the perfect temperature for a bread to rise from, like, if you're just making bread without sourdough or if you want your sourdough to be active. 76 is the perfect degree. And then you could, once it's done, you put it in the fridge and you only have to feed it once a week. But I fed mine, I think, like 3 times a day when I started out, like every couple of hours, because I was
Well, maybe
obsessed.
I'm not feeding it enough. Maybe I need to feed her more because she's in the microwave with the light on, so she's plenty warm.
Yeah, I mean, I obsess about things, so I'm like, oh, is it okay? No, it's not, like,
So we
absolutely,
need
it's
a
not healthy.
baker's
You shouldn't do
story
it.
now. We totally need a baker's story now.
I should. That's a good
I'm
idea.
working on it, Evelyn.
Oh,
Now,
really?
are
Yeah.
you?
That's
Mhm.
awesome. Oh my god.
Yeah. I took classes and everything about Regency cooking. And
Oh,
actually,
so cool.
on Wednesday and Thursday, I am getting some tours. So I have, I'm charging all my notebooks and cameras, and I am already building a huge amount of research. So
Wow.
we're on to
That's
the
so
next
cool.
rabbit hole, right?
So what do you learn in a Regency cooking class? Because I'm fascinated by that. I did Escoffier in college, but like that's it.
So right now, I really like the cocktails and the mocktails that the ladies enjoyed when there weren't gentlemen around. That was really fun. And I actually have one book coming out in which, and I have 2 books with 2 different cocktails. One of them I made, and it's so good. It's with beer and egg, and you whisk heavy cream in, and it sounds
Oh
really
my
weird.
goodness.
It's so yummy. It's like this, if you imagine the sweetness of a good light beer and the heavy cream, and you make it frothy, almost like a latte,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
That would have
sweet.
a very nice mouthfeel with the cream and the egg like all frothed together. It would be
And that's why they have the first kiss after it, because it's so that and then there's another one with a drink that actually Phil Reed told me about, another Dragonblade author. She turned me on to this, and I tried to make it, and I thought it was weird, but it was delicious. I made it with sparkling water, so I don't know if they did it then, but it's called a shrub.
Oh yeah, the
Have you ever
vinegar
had
and
it?
the vinegar and usually like a blackberry shrub would be
Yeah.
vinegar and blackberries smushed together. Yeah. I can still buy the shrub concentrate at the farmers market sometimes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And so that is the drinks and the cocktails and things. Actually, they're not even mocktails; they were actual cocktails in this case. Then I haven't quite worked it out, but they made these puddings in the mold. Think like Jello, because it had bone in it. So
animal gelatin.
yeah, it was animal gelatin. But regardless, it was stable enough to put tiny pears that were peeled and boiled in red wine on it. Sorry, with the stem standing up, and they are just adorable. And then they served it just in time. So if the pudding was like this light yellowy kind of like creamy color, the red wine diffused just enough so the top was a little pink, because they didn't have any like other colorings and things.
Mhm.
So they would serve it half.
Lovely.
I know, it was so it's just so pretty, and just these natural things. I tried with my kids one of the recipes for getting, because you were talking about dough, to take different colors and then braiding it in different colors. So they would grind flowers and leaves. I bought them ground because we live now. But so I used turmeric, and then you can use red beet powder. And I can't remember what their green stuff was, so I just used matcha. But so we had 3 colors. We had like these very nice colors, and then we braided the dough, and then we put it together. And then they had a technique to dissolve water and starch. I mean, starch and water, sorry, and to brush it just before they put it in the oven, so that the colors didn't mix.
Oh.
So they would cut the bread.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty. And you know how in biscotti you would cut it and then you put it in the oven again? So they did that, so it became this cracker in different dots of colors. It's just so pretty.
Wow.
I did that with the kids.
Oh, I bet the kids loved that.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with Mommy's research.
Beautiful side effect I hadn't considered. So.
Yeah. In this book, actually, because I mentioned the minor character, my little son is terrified of crickets at night when they make noise. So when I was writing this book, there were crickets outside, and I was using that because he said that crickets at night can't possibly make noise because he's very little. And insects, when you find them, are usually really quiet, like an ant or a ladybug are very quiet animals.
He's right, they are generally very quiet. Yeah.
So at night, if we leave the window open or we hear the crickets, that must be the stars sparkling in the sky. So he said that, and I was like, look, Mommy is writing a love story with a princess. And it's like, do I have your permission to use this? And he gives me a kiss, and he said, you can use anything I come up with. Some of it is nonsense, Mommy. I was like, this is actually very, very pretty. So that worked into this book. I won't tell you how, but it's in there. And I dedicated it to him and one of my best friends.
Oh, awesome. Oh, that's lovely. And what a lovely story to end on. So I don't think we can do any better than that. That's fantastic. It's fantastic. Ladies, it has been a treat talking to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to make sure I put the link to your books in the comments. And if you have newsletters, go ahead and pop your newsletter sign up underneath. Because as a reader, I always want to get the extra, like the extra stuff. I want to know the behind the scenes stuff. So pop your links there so that we can subscribe if you've got them. And if you haven't gotten any Dragonblade books, you want to grab them on pre-order or release. They're the best deal then. And afterwards, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited. So, ladies, thanks again for taking the time to talk to us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.